Live by Live has all of your favorite music, and you can listen for free. Whether you hit play on one of our hundreds of curated music stations or create your own custom artist radio station, you'll find the music you love on Live by Live. Visit livexlive.com or search LiveX Live in the App Store or Google Play and listen for free now.
This is a Federal News Network podcast.
The Treasury Department's Bureau of the Fiscal Service sees an opportunity to catch up after spending much of the pandemic getting payments out to the public. In a letter to the agency's financial staff, agency executives say they're looking to disperse nearly all payments electronically by 2030 and to flag more improper payments and modernize the data. For more, Federal News Network's Jory Heckman spoke with Commissioner Tim Gribben.
As part of this future readiness assessment, we embarked on a workforce assessment. So our current challenges and how do we respond to that? Well, one of it is that we're doing competency assessments of employees. So we identify those skills that we need. So when I talked about some of the trends in the future and one of the trends when we talk about predictive government, well, we need people that understand enterprise data analytics. So using that as an example, then we develop competency assessments to determine where are we on the maturity level of being able to provide enterprise data analytics, and then identifying those gaps and the skills gaps, and then working on the training and what we need to do in order to close those gaps. So there's a whole bunch of things more than just training, but there's mentorship. It also gives us the indication of where we need to attract new talent into the organization. We have the technology now to be able to accommodate remote work. By being able to open up the opportunities for remote workers, we rely less on the geographic boundaries that we had set up for ourselves based on our 7 locations. And so when I look at the skill sets that we need in the future, and 2 positions in particular, I talk about data analytics and all of the other positions surrounding that, like data scientists. The other one is around, of course, cybersecurity. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. That is the ongoing threat. We always have to be ahead of the curve, and it's tough to be in the government and compete in the private sector for cybersecurity professionals. We believe that some of those in-demand skills that we can solve through expanded telework opportunities by hiring in multiple locations, being able to provide the ability for someone to get certified. And maybe they don't enter into the job certified for a job like cybersecurity or data analytics, but we can provide that opportunity to employees and using the flexible hiring that we do have within the government to the maximum extent possible.
These all seem like pretty powerful recruiting incentives, I guess.
Yeah, and the other thing that I always have been talking about is the diversity of the workforce, and that we achieve better results, we achieve better performance when we are a more inclusive and diverse organization. And I think it's 8 or 9 months ago, could have been longer, actually it was longer, probably more than a year ago, I formed an Employee Inclusion Action Committee. It's a committee that's chaired by an employee and staffed by employees, and looking at what are some of those impediments to hiring, to retaining employees that we have within the organization. How do we become more inclusive and diverse so that we are a more attractive place to work, because we reflect the population more at large than maybe we did a few years ago.
Has that task force kind of narrowed in on any kind of those impediments that they're studying, or is that still a work in progress?
It's still a work in process. They did an assessment of the organization. We had a company that came in and helped facilitate some of the discussions with employees, and they're working on the action plan now. Because what I said, the end goal of the action committee is to come up with a plan that we can actually put into place. And it's not one of those things where we put it on a shelf and we check the box like, say, we're more inclusive because we did this. No, we're more inclusive because we're finding out what our impediments are and what we're going to do to tackle them. And some of it has to do with how we do our hiring and how we can use some more of the modern techniques to hire. This group is helping us break down those geographic boundaries, and the pandemic also helped us realize that we could hire people. And for instance, we might have a job where most of the employees are here in DC or in Parkersburg, West Virginia, but now in the future we can hire them in our other locations or some potentially remote locations.
Let's maybe delve into some of the specific action items that we're seeing in this latest CFO letter. A lot of pretty ambitious goals that the Bureau is setting for itself. What specific steps is the Bureau taking to make nearly all Treasury dispersed payments electronic by 2030? And to maybe zoom out there, what are some of the benefits of moving to a nearly all electronic disbursement of payments?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that specifically is one of the goals that I articulate in the CFO letter because it is, well, they're all important, but we learned the importance, as I said previously, through the distribution of the economic impact payments and also currently what we're doing with the child tax credits. The steps that we're taking to reduce the reliance on paper checks is one, working with the IRS, which is the number one producer of paper checks. And that is stemming from the way people file their taxes and how they say they want to get their refunds. We've formed a coalition of the largest check producing agencies. So the No Check Coalition is what we call it. We're all working on what do we do? How do we educate consumers, the citizens, in the value of paper checks? There's some people who still believe that getting that paper check is more secure when actually it's not. So our data shows that electronic transactions much more secure and less prone to fraud than paper checks. So some of the ways that we're doing that is also we're working on right now modernizing our payment systems, making them more modern and resilient. And as part of that is incorporating the various digital payment options that exist. I mentioned Venmo as one of them. Right now, we're set up where we have to negotiate with each of the fintech payment platforms. We're working now on a solution that allows us to have one payment system and then be able to tie in multiple payment methods and even ones that don't even exist yet. So there are a number of strategies behind how we go electronic. The benefits that we're trying to communicate is, well, first of all, as I said, it's more secure. It's faster. So rather than having to wait for a check to be produced, which takes time, and to mail, which takes time, and to cash at a bank, which takes time, it's faster. It's also cheaper. So when we talk about government resources, it's a lot cheaper to produce electronic payments than paper checks. And that also reduces the carbon footprint. So when we talk about the climate effects that producing paper has on the climate, that directly contributes to this administration's goal on climate. And then I think it also provides a better payment experience for citizens when they have that immediate access to their money. It also, from a security standpoint, we've shown that it results in fewer post-payment issues. So I didn't receive my check. Where is it? Those things, it's a lot easier to track electronic than paper.
Tim Gribben, Commissioner of the Treasury Department's Bureau of the Fiscal Service, speaking with Federal News Network's Jory Heckman. Check out Jory's story at federalnewsnetwork.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Lessons in Leadership podcast. I am your host, Shane Canfield, CEO of WEPA. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Vice Admiral Cutler Dawson. Cutler has had an incredible career serving our country for 35 years in the Navy, where he attained the rank of Vice Admiral. During his service, he had numerous assignments afloat and ashore, including Commander, 2nd Fleet, Striking Fleet Atlantic, and in Washington at the Pentagon and on Capitol Hill, where he was the Navy's Chief of Legislative Affairs. Immediately following his retirement from active duty in 2004, he became the president and CEO of Navy Federal Credit Union, the world's largest credit union, where he served for 14 years. Under his leadership, Navy Federal grew from 2 million to 8 million members. Phenomenal. Cutler, welcome and thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Shane.
You've had a fascinating career across both military and the private sector. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your professional journey?
Well, I started out at the Naval Academy where I graduated in 1970 and then, as you mentioned, spent 35 years in the Navy with 6 actual afloat commands. The first one was when I was 27 years old. I didn't know enough to be scared of anything, and it was probably one of the highlights of my career. And then after I retired after 35 years, I went to work at Navy Federal Credit Union as the CEO, where I spent my next 14 years. I'm currently retired and enjoying life, and it's been a great run for me.
How would you describe your leadership style, and how's that developed over the years?
My style has been quite consistent. I believe, and I've learned this in the Navy, that you have to go to the deck plates to see what is going on. And you have to learn what your people do and how they do it so you can help them to be better at it and more efficient and more productive. It's something that you need to do all the time. I remember I used to tell folks that you don't want to retreat to your cabin. And what I mean by that is the longer you're in a position, the less you think you have to get out and about. But that should be the opposite. You should get out and about more because people change, situations change, and you've got to figure out a way to get to them and find out what they're doing and what you can do to help them.
We'll talk a little bit more about your book, but I read it, From C to the C-Suite. Fantastic read. You talk about the deck plates in that as well. I would encourage everyone to get a copy of this and read some more detail about going to the deck plates. Cutler, who was the most impactful leader in your life, and what quality did you admire about them?
I had numerous while I was in the Navy, but the quality that I enjoyed the most was the leaders that got to know me as an individual and that they cared about me. And I could tell that they cared about me. And they were not only my leaders, but they were my mentors. And I remember one particular one, Bill Schiffer, when I had my first assignment at the Pentagon. I would go in to see him with my problem of the day. And I knew that he had numerous problems of his own, but he would stop and he would focus on me and he would make me feel like I was the most important person in his world. And I tried to do that throughout my career, but really it's about caring for your people.
Cutler, in reading your book, there was a quote you used that you used to inspire those people that work for you. And it really got my attention. And it was, you are the captain of your own ship. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what that means and how it was useful to you and the leaders you were developing.
Absolutely. What I mean by captain of your own ship, when you are the captain of a ship, sometimes you're in the middle of the ocean and you don't have anybody to turn to make decisions. You don't have anybody to turn to ask, what should I do now? You have to be the captain of that ship. And I translated that into, let's say, Navy Federal's organization, where I would tell branch managers that I said, you are the captain of the ships of Navy Federal. You're the ones that are facing the members or customers, as others call them, every day. And you have to make decisions without a lot of guidance in some cases and without a lot of time. So be the captain of your own ship. Step up, make decisions, do what you think is right, and you never can go wrong.
I think that is so important. And you have to give your people a little bit of latitude to take some risk as well, because there is risk for them in doing that and risk to your organization.
That's right. And I mentioned that I took command of my first ship with 5 years in the Navy, and I was 27 years old. Well, my boss had 32 years in the Navy, and his guidance to me when I first met him was, Cutler, you do the right thing and I'll back you up all the way. What a wonderful way to spend an assignment with backup and guidance like that.
What great advice. It's clear leadership is a topic you're passionate about. You wrote the book we mentioned before, From C to C-Suite. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yes. When I was at Navy Federal, I would tell sea stories as parables to get my point across. And folks would tell me, Cutler, we like your stories. It gives us a picture of what you're trying to tell us. Now, what else are they going to say? They work for me, but I took it as a compliment, and it was. And my wife encouraged me to write a book, and I needed a co-author to help me. And I found a lady named Taylor Keelan, who was the perfect co-author. She turned in my stories into wonderful chapters that I'm very proud of.
Where can listeners find a copy?
Well, you can get it on Amazon, and you can also get it on the Naval Institute website. And I might add that any proceeds from the book, Navy Federal uses to give to charity.
Fantastic. Cutler, thank you very much. Really enjoyed your time and your lessons in leadership and sharing with us your life story. And I've learned a lot, both from talking to you today and reading your book. And thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure. And I would like to add one thing, if I could, Shane. During my assignments in Washington, D.C., I gained the utmost respect for the civilians that work here every day. They're hardworking, they're dedicated, and they have my eternal gratitude. I got to come and go from the Pentagon. They stayed every day and worked in Washington when I got to go out and enjoy being at sea.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, WEPA serves civilian federal employees, but your comment is well taken because the interaction between the two is continuous, it's nonstop, and it's critical. So the career civil servants, as well as career military, our country would not be where it is today without them.
I totally agree. And I can tell you from the U.S. Navy standpoint, we couldn't operate like we do without them being the backbone of what we do.
Thank you very much for your time today, Cutler. And to everyone listening to Lessons in Leadership podcast, we'll see you next time.
Angie's List is now Angie, A-N-G-I, and caring for your home just got easier. Whether you need help with routine maintenance or a dream remodel, Angie makes it easy to see reviews, compare quotes, and connect with top local pros who can get the job done right. Plus, you could see upfront pricing and instantly book hundreds of projects. No phone tag, just the work you need done at a time that works for you. Angie's got your to-do list covered from start to finish. Book your next home project today at Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
You spend the first hour of your vacation at the luggage carousel thinking there's nowhere to go but up. But there is a place to go but up, because when you open your suitcase, you find it filled with dolls. Dolls like the ones in that movie that scared you so much you wet your girlfriend's bed. Ah, Marissa, the one that got away. You return the bag to the airport with relief. It lasts until you get back to your room, where a fallen doll waits to greet you.
Don't let a suitcase full of dolls ruin your vacation. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing.